Welcome to Fun and Fundraising, everybody. The podcast where we talk with people behind top nonprofit galas and signature fundraising events to showcase how they positively transform their communities. I am your host, Rob Giardinelli, and today I'm excited to have a trio of really special guests on. So we have Kerianne Oliver and Jennifer Ramberg, who are co-chairs of the upcoming Crystal Ball benefiting the Helping Hand Home, along with Beth Plater, who is the board president. And the reason that we have the Helping Hand Home and the Crystal Ball on as a guest is it is the most widely attended nonprofit signature fundraiser in the city of Austin. It has over 2,000 attendees. So we're going to dive into that and a whole bunch of other really fun things during our time together today. So with that, Kerianne, Jennifer, Beth, welcome. And we're so excited to have you on as guests today.
Thank you so much for having
Rob.
us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're going to have Beth handle and field the first question. And would you be able to just explain to the listeners what the mission of Helping Hand Home is?
Yes, I can, Rob, and thank you so much for having us. So basically, Helping Hand Home is about healing and providing a safe haven for kids that have been severely neglected and or abused. So the kids we serve are typically like 5 to 12 years old. And with our mission to bring hope and healing to all these kids, we do that through a continuum of trauma-informed therapeutic care. And that is kind of broken out into 4 areas. So first, we have our residential. So we've got a residential treatment center on campus, and we have about 30 kids living here. We've got such a highly educated and trained team that maintains a staff to child ratio of 1 to 3. So that really is able to give each of those kiddos more personalized attention and care 24 hours a day. A second piece of our mission is the foster program. And right now we've got like 80 families in our foster program that are being trained or have been trained. And so that's exciting. We have an adoption program, and we are so excited. This summer we celebrated our 200th adoption. And so everybody was pumped about that, and our numbers keep climbing. We've had 7 more adoptions over the summer. So that's been so exciting. Finally, we offer a ton of support services to all of these groups. So that really makes us special in the community and helping these kids. And our goal is to heal these children and find them a forever home. And we've been doing this for 130 years.
Okay, 130 years, I know that, we'll get to the event in a little bit, but, what do you think, has people coming back decade after decade to support this organization in particular?
I think the root of it is helping these children. I mean, the main thing is you want to give these kids a childhood back. So I think that people see in the community what we've done. They see the results on these kids that come from unspeakable backgrounds, and they are healed here and able to go back into the environment, go to school and, a regular public school, and have a family and really just be a kid again and have a real family again.
I love that. And I love that end result. And, congratulations on, celebrating your 200th adoption recently. I mean, that's really great. And it just goes to show the great work that you do, throughout the Austin area to really find, kids a safe space that they can not just survive, but really thrive. So thank you so much for sharing that. So with that, I kind of want to turn to how each of you, I always love this question because everyone gets involved with organizations for different reasons, but I love, for each of you to share how each of you have gotten involved with Helping Hand Home. And with this, why don't we start with Kerianne?
Sure. A lot of this is word of mouth. It's people in the community that have been doing this for years. You spoke about kind of what keeps it going on. There's generations of women that, their grandmothers have done it and now they're doing it. And they, their children will most likely participate or volunteer later on. So just that word of mouth. And my friend Martha Dice grew up here in Austin. Her family was involved for years. She grew up, and that's how I initially heard about it. And she knew I was looking for an organization. And I was impressed with the longevity, 130 years. And the cause for the ball goes back to the children. It's not a social event in the sense that the money goes back to a social club. it really does benefit an amazing cause. And the fact that it's lasted this long is just, that was a no-brainer for me.
That's fantastic. And Jennifer, what about you?
Well, I've lived in Austin a long time. My family's been involved in, my mom was a junior leaguer. I was a junior leaguer. So through those connections, my sponsor from Junior League, Carol Crowley, had kind of introduced me to the Helping Hand Home. And I was still working full time through 2017. And I kind of kept thinking, oh, I'm gonna get involved. I'm gonna get involved, and couldn't make it work with a full-time schedule. But finally I retired. And the minute I stepped out of my office, I got a call from Carol Crowley and she said, okay, we need you. And it was the perfect way for me to transition out of a full-time job into doing something really, really meaningful. I love to fundraise. I love to, but I also love to get my hands dirty and be involved. And my first job here was working in the closet for the kids, where we would go buy clothes and staff this closet where the children are actually allowed to come in and shop. So they get an experience somewhat similar to what our children might get, and get to pick their pants and pick their shirt and have an outfit and a backpack and a toy. And just really kind of grabbed me from there. So then kind of continue to get more and more involved and take on this bigger role as gala co-chair with Kerianne.
And I know how big of an undertaking that is. And, I always like to say with co-chairs, a lot of it's a timing thing. So, with organizations, and I'm not sure if either of you were asked before and it just wasn't the right time, but we always like to stress on the show that, if someone says no, but you can see that they're really passionate, it's all about alignment with stars. And Jennifer, you in particular, talking about how you step back and no one says no to Carol Crowley. So I totally understand that.
Right.
So I know how that works. And there's probably 5 or 6 different people in Austin that I can say that to, and she's on that very short list.
Yes.
And, it's just, recognizing when people may have the space to do that. And I love that, you've gotten gradually more involved, each year over the last few years to culminate in, in this. And, with that, Beth, I'd love to hear, especially as a board president, I'd love to hear how you got involved with the organization. What motivated you to, step up and, be involved in the board of this organization?
Yeah, so I came from a similar background that Jennifer did. I was in the junior league. And then, after that career sort of was winding down along with my full-time working career, I too was looking for something else to jump into. And Susie Belasia was my sponsor here. And I knew it was a group of women that worked really hard. Like, it wasn't a fluff organization. I had lived in Hyde Park right out of college and had, taken my kids in their stroller by or run by, jogged by the home, and just knew the great work that was happening over here. So when I got involved, I too love chairing events. And so I have chaired gala previously, and we have another fundraiser called Champions for Children that's a luncheon in October, and I had chaired that and had been on various committees. And then finally this last year they had invited me to be president, so I was super duper honored. It's an incredible staff that we support, and it's an incredible group of women that I get to work with, so I feel very honored.
Absolutely. And, I love with each of your journeys that you talked about, it's a process of several years for each of you where you're actively involved. And what I've always loved about, Helping Hand Home is everyone there really does roll up their sleeves, and it is so much more than a social organization. I mean, you all raised 7 figures, and I think you're even at the point where you're approaching like the $2 million mark for a gala, which is really, that's a lot of money to go to, various causes. And, one thing that I saw from each of you when you were talking was, the passion that you have. And with this, I'd like to start with Jennifer. What makes you so passionate about this organization?
Oh, the first year you're involved here, you get to spend time with the children. Sorry, it's going to choke each one of us up a little bit. one of the things that they do very well is through that initial year, you work the Halloween party, your Valentine's party, or you're at the end of the year party. So you're in, and I did Halloween party. So I was out there with those kids. That's such a big time of year for my kids. And when I got to be out there with them, you know, they're not out trick-or-treating. They're limited in their costumes. We've got a little festival going. It's unbelievable what we do for these kids to make their day special and fun. The smiles on their faces, the joy that was brought to them that day, it truly, it took my heart. And I'm an empty nester as of a few weeks ago, and my goal is to fundraise through the gala this year, but then just get more hands-on with the kids after this, because that, to me, we've got to have the money to support them, but the hands-on with these children is really, really important to me, and something I'm looking forward to doing next.
That's amazing. And you can tell that, you know, it's always great when someone, you know, once one professional door opens, another calling opens, and you can really sense that, Jennifer, you know, in how you articulate and talk about that. And, you know, with that, Beth, I'd love to hear, you know, what makes you passionate about this organization, because to be a board president, you have to be passionate about an organization in order to do that. So I'm especially interested in hearing what you have to say.
Well, and I think, you know, similar to what Jennifer said, I mean, we all are here for the kids. You want to give that child their childhood back. And what is so impressive here is our incredible staff that we have. We have many on staff that have been here for, you know, multiple years, double-digit years. And to see them serve with their heart, and it just is, like Jennifer said, it's, you know, it chokes you up to see just the love in this place that goes to each of these kids on their journey of healing. So I couldn't be more honored to be a part of this organization and be honored to be, you know, asked to be president. It's just such a special place. And I'm so glad to be sitting here with these ladies. Even they're amazing and doing amazing work this year.
Absolutely. And Kerianne, you know, it sounds like you were not necessarily involved with, you know, with the organization younger, and you got involved through your friend Martha.
Yes.
You know, share a little bit about, you know, where your passion kind of bubbled up from for this organization.
You know, I'll say initially my passion came from the fact that, you know, it is an honor to be asked to be a part of this volunteer group. And I was really excited about their mission. It wasn't until I went through a couple of the meetings where we really do get to hear from our behavioral, you know, director dealing with all of the behavioral therapy about what the kids go through. And at that time in my life, I was actually doing some pretty significant work on myself for childhood trauma. And I just never thought in a million years that I had the same sort of behavioral things growing up, saw it with my siblings. And that turned me around completely. I would have never thought I would be co-chairing a ball where I needed to raise $2 million. And it was, you know, 2,000 to 2,500 people attending. I would have never done that. And then throughout the years in those meetings, I just, it changed. It changed. And my passion came straight from that. So I'm shameless about asking for money for them and the staff that, you know, we know social work doesn't pay very well.
Absolutely. And, you know, I love that, you know, your path, you know, it's really, yours sounds like you're really paying it forward. And I really admire you for that, you know, with the work that you had done on yourself and how you're paying it forward with these other kids. And I just think
I had the ability
really
to pay for that and do that. And these kids don't. And so just giving them that chance is amazing.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you all for sharing that. I mean, you could hear the passion really coming through all three of you. So it was wonderful to hear. Now, you know, the next question I have is for Beth. So, you know, Beth is, you know, she is president of the board, but, you know, and a lot of really good organizations such as Helping Hand have this, where you also have an additional community advisory board. So tell us the difference between those two boards and how it allows Helping Hand Home to really have a much wider impact on the Austin community.
Yeah, sure, Rob. So basically, the society board is a membership of the corporation of the home. So like we formulate policies that govern the operations of the home. Our membership supports the home with volunteer and fundraising efforts. So we've talked a little bit about some earlier, but we'll do stuff like make meals for the staff. We have an incredible University of Texas charter school on campus. And so we assist the teachers in the classroom with field trips, activities, school parties. We even offer a Sunday school program that the kids can come to if they want, and that's all volunteer driven. As Jennifer was mentioning, we have this very cool clothing store that the kids can come shop, of course, for free. But like if they need a new backpack or some new shoes or a school outfit, we do a really fun New Year's Eve party. So they get to come shop for a really cool, outfit for their New Year's Eve party. So we just try to provide as many normal experiences and opportunities for these children as we would provide for our own kids. So that's basically sort of the society's goals on that. And then the Community Advisory Board, they serve to help support the mission also, and they have a variety of professional backgrounds. So they can help us in PR, advocacy, community awareness efforts. So we really lean on them as our community leaders for their wisdom and expertise and vision. But both of the boards are solely focused on giving that child back their childhood.
I love that. And what I love is that you take into account the whole community, because when we talk on this show about this frequently, that, in order for any organization to be successful, yes, you have to have financial capital, but you also have to have human capital. And Beth, I loved how you explained, you specifically will look for people in the Community Advisory Board that can really help with that human capital element that really allows critical mass to be gained for the organization. I love how you kind of explain that and kind of how each of those roles serves an extremely important function in terms of what, Helping Hand does to impact the Austin community at large. Absolutely. So, all right. So my next question, and I'm going to let Kerianne and Jennifer decide who goes first on this one. So, we talked about this earlier. The Crystal Ball is the most widely attended gala each year in Austin. So I'd love to hear each of you, kind of say, what you think is a secret to an organization to create a really large and really devoted following to an annual gala or fundraising event.
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this will be our 81st year. So that in itself is pretty amazing. Austin's growing so fast, but it is still a small town. And our small town of Austin, we love our traditions. And I think that's a huge part of it. And the multi-generational participation. We have people here that work here. Julie Metzger, and what's her title?
She is
she's a member, but she's now director of major gifts. Her grandmother was the first gala chair, so it's great. And I think that's a huge part of it. I do think that that word of mouth, people love to kind of see and come and see what it's all about, because everybody who's been here forever, they've always been doing it and talking about it.
Absolutely. And Jennifer, what about you?
I agree with what Kerianne said. And then I would also say, I think one of the things that makes us special, and also makes running this gala a little bit more complicated, is our participants. Our debutantes, our escorts, our junior escorts, our 9th grade girls and boys, and then all the way down to our little 1st grade princesses. We reach so many people by having all these darling participants involved. And, every family brings in, you've got a mom and dad, maybe a couple moms and dads, maybe grandparents, maybe aunts and uncles, all these new people every year. We definitely have repeat participants as they get older, but we get new kids in every year that are involved, and that brings new families to the home and they get to see our mission and see what's going on here. I really think our participants are what make us really unique and special when it comes to the gala.
Absolutely. And you both really hit it on the head. And, Beth, I kind of want to ask kind of a follow-up question of that to you, just because you can speak from this experience. And it's something that Kerianne brought up about multi-generational the multi-generational aspect of this event. And that's the one thing, every time I go to the Helping Hand Ball, it is fun to see people from 8 to 80 all having a really good time. How do you think having that multi-generational element helps create a really welcoming event? Because 2,000 people, that can feel really intimidating. How do you think that multi-generational aspect really creates a welcoming environment for the gala?
Well, it's almost like a family reunion.
It's so true.
Because we have members that, they were participants, like we were saying, when they were younger, and now they have kids participating. So it's just the sweetest thing to see, and to walk around and hear their stories, and them to share their experiences with their kids and be like, oh, when I was, a debutante, this is, X, Y, and Z. So I think it's just that very personal touch, that it's so family centered, that really makes it special and is able to continue year after year after year.
That's
It's
amazing.
incredible.
And 81 years later, here you all are. I mean, it's incredible. And, like you said, like Jennifer was saying, some people do, come in for certain years. And one of the groups of folks that do that are, what you are basically the out-of-town princesses you have. So, the thing about the Crystal Ball is, yes, there's a lot of people from Austin there, but it also does draw people from other markets. So I'd love to hear from any of you, feel free to, jump in, how the organization engages with people from other cities, to make it worth their while to, get in a car, drive or fly, a couple of hours or several hours to get to Austin, and take part in this event.
I think our grandparents are the key to that. A lot of the first grade princesses, and I've got a child in college, and I'm already thinking about, gosh, where's he going to live? And so we don't love for our families to be, in the town we grew up in, but a lot of them move away. And I think that's a big draw, is that their grandparents bring them back. And then it continues to grow from there.
That's fantastic. Jennifer, you wanted to chime in.
Well, I was just going to say, I think, we don't have I know the Symphony Ball brings in like visiting debutante princesses. We don't do that because we have such a draw here. We don't have the space on the stage. After we have 35 debutantes this year, which
35?
Yes.
Oh my God. All right. So how long will it take to escort everybody?
you might as well get your seat today and just sit and get comfortable. No, it's, we've got an excellent group of women that manage that too. There's, these fabulous women, speaking of longevity in a job, they've been doing this job for forever, and they are in charge of that stage, and they will make it go beautifully and quickly, and you will just be dazzled the whole time.
Yes.
But we've got these 35 young women. Many are at UT, some are coming from out of state. We draw them back home. So it's like Beth said, it's like a family reunion. Like, I'm so excited. I happen to have a debutante this year. Kerianne has an escort this year. A little unusual as a gala chair to have a participant, especially at that level, but we decided we'd brave it. And so we're both excited to have our kids home for that weekend, and it brings our families together as a whole. And I think Beth hit the nail on the head. It's just about family, and really that really is the big overlying theme of all of this, is that these children don't have the families that we all have, and we're so blessed to be able to celebrate our kids. But in doing that, we're raising funds for kids who really just need a happy home.
Absolutely. I was going to say a helping hand. So
Exactly. All of it.
we'll do that. We'll do that. The door was open. I had to walk
That
through
was
people. All right. So before we talk about this year's gala, I want to bring up something, because the three of you have just a really incredibly comfortable camaraderie with one another. And I'd love for each of you to share, how important it is for not just co-chairs to get along, but also co-chairs and the board to get along. And I'd love, what is a key, or what is a secret, to that, when, if you're a board president looking to find chairs, and if you're a gala chair, what do you look for from a board? And with that, let's start with Kerianne.
Well, first thing I'd say is just clear your calendar. That helps a lot. We literally, Jennifer and I started, well, so she and I worked on auction for the ball before, so we've worked together. I think the biggest thing is knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses and how to put them together. And so she's got strengths that I don't have, and I've got strengths that she doesn't have. And that has worked really well for us. And we got a chance to work together before, and that doesn't always happen with the chairs. But it takes a full year. And so we already knew that being involved in auction. And we started the day after last year's gala.
And that's that's the way to do it. And before I go to Jennifer, I will say, and Beth, you can probably echo this. If you have a good silent auction or any auction chair, hold on to them, because that is the most difficult of all the jobs. I would even say sometimes it's probably more difficult than being the event chair. That job is so encompassing and so large, but I love that you both cut your chops with that. I think that's really, that's really spectacular and fantastic to hear.
Yeah, that you're spot on that. That's a hard job.
Not an easy one for sure. So Jennifer, what's your, what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to chair, just in terms of, do I pair with this co-chair and chair with this board?
Well, I think, well, two things. I think finding a good co-chair is key. And I think making sure, like Kerianne said, each other's strengths and weaknesses. If you've had the opportunity to work with someone before, that's great. That's not common. We were really lucky to have that. But I think if you can kind of come at it with an open mind and an open heart, and you both have the same goal in mind, I think, anything's possible. We are really lucky because we have a person on staff here at Helping Hand Home, McKenna Blissett, who manages all of the event. She's the event manager, and she is the one that keeps us kind of in line.
We could not do this without her.
Could not.
Exactly. Yeah.
No way.
And she sends us reminders like, don't forget, this is what's coming up next. She keeps us organized. She keeps our spreadsheets. Like, it's amazing what goes on behind the scenes. That helps us to take on a job like this. But I do think I think one thing that's really important is that you like the person you're working with. I was really lucky to have that. As it relates to the board, Beth jumped in before we even started our role as gala chairs and just was like, I'm here for you next year. I have done this job. I know what you guys are going to be doing. You come to me anytime. And it's rung true. I mean, since she said that in early February, we can call on her for anything. And I think just having that faith and that trust is really important, going both ways.
Definitely. And Beth, I'd love to hear, because you have been a chair and now you're a board president, from a board perspective, what does the board look for in terms of finding a quality and good event chair?
So I will say, Rob, this organization is blessed with so many incredible ladies with different talent. And I think that is unique. And everybody kind of comes in a little bit seasoned, like you could hear Jennifer and I had both been in junior league. And, so you come in ready to roll your sleeves up. And I also think that everyone is so mission centric. Everybody knows why we're here. Everybody knows why they're working really hard. So in order to find those gala chairs, we are actually lucky in that there are a lot of very capable women. As both of them have said, clear your calendar and get ready to roll your sleeves up. So you do need people that it's the right time in their life, and they're ready to take on, because this is a full-time job for sure.
It is. I mean, raising $2 million is a lot. I mean, that's a lot of money, and that's a big undertaking. And I admire anyone who will do that and coordinate 2,000 people. And speaking of 2,000 to 2,500 people, tell us a little bit about what guests can expect to experience at this year's Crystal Ball.
Okay, so this is kind of the fun part. So the chairs each year, we pick a color for the theme, and that's what our 9th grade girls wear. And we pick, the design of the crest and all of the branding. And so I think they're going to have a really beautiful, fun. We have an amazing decorations committee, beautiful, fun event. Our color this year is lilac. And it's just going to be very lighthearted and traditional and formal, but it'll be a little different than the years before. And it's always fun to do that.
Well, and I think it's important, for any event chair to, put their own spin on an event. One is it prevents it from being deja vu. And that's the one thing I've always appreciated about Helping Hand is it's a different color palette every year. And because of that, it allows it to be fresh in people's minds. And I think it's those little things that I found that have people keep coming back year after year, that you can grow to be, the largest fundraiser in one of the 10 largest cities in the United States. I mean, there's really something to be said about the innovation that you all do with that.
Well, and Rob, I'll say these girls are so much fun to work with, and I know their committee is having a ball, and so just the enjoyment of it all too is such, hats off to both of these ladies, because it is going to be a very successful and a very beautiful and a very fun night for all of us.
That's awesome. I'm super excited for it. But before we go, I've got one more question. And because each of you are chairs, I found out in the last half hour, each of you can give a brief answer on that. What is a piece of advice you would give to someone looking to chair their first gala? And we'll start with Beth.
There's so many words that come into mind. I think the important thing is, just as I was saying, what these ladies are doing is you need to keep the fun. It's of course mission focused, but you need to keep a good, light-hearty attitude about it.
Yes, and make people want to be there. Fun and fundraising.
Yes, that's exactly right.
All right, Jennifer, what about you?
Well, I think the most important thing is the people you surround yourself with. I think Kerianne and I have been really, really lucky to have an exceptional committee. It's a large committee. It's the largest committee I've ever managed. And I would say we have incredible women supporting us and surrounding us, and it makes it easy.
Absolutely. And Kerianne, we'll end with you.
Well, Jennifer took my answer. Aside from that, I think you got to be organized. Have everything on your calendar ahead of time. The more you can plan ahead, the better you are when things last minute come up that you just didn't expect.
Perfect answer. I'm going to call that a full mic drop moment. And I can't thank the three of you enough for being on today. This was really informative and a lot of fun. So Kerianne, Jennifer, Beth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Absolutely. And the 81st annual Crystal Charity Ball benefiting Helping Hand Home will be on March 2nd, 2024 at the Palmer Event Center in Austin, Texas. For more information, please visit helpinghandhome.org. And that will do it for this episode of Fun and Fundraising. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, reminding you to keep it fun, keep it interesting, and your guests will have a great time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.